Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this session of our general teaching techniques, and I'm going to be taking you through the pedagogy and andragogy of teaching. In the previous session, we looked at our different types of learners. We have the slow learner, we have the average learner, and then the talented. We said the majority are the average learner. The few ones belong to the extreme and the few belong to the other extreme. We're looking at pedagogy and andragogy. This is not new for teachers, and I'll not spend a lot of time on this. Basically, these two words mean the same. Pedagogy is the art and science of teaching. Right now, I'm going to say I'm using pedagogy. Could I be using andragogy because I'm teaching old people? I have some of my students who are even at 50, 60 years of age. I would say I'm using both andragogy and pedagogy. Pedagogy is the art and science of teaching. Andragogy is the art and science of teaching old people. These are just two words which are the same, but meaning different things. You know, when we're teaching old people, we use a different method. When an old person gives you an answer, it's correct. We don't say it's wrong. That's an old person. That's the method of teaching. And we use certain methods. When we're teaching children of lower, like in primary one, we use a lot of drill method, singing. So there's pedagogy and andragogy. They mean the same, but applying to different groups of people. We will move quickly, we will not stay on that one. We will move to the teaching methods. Our main point is the teaching techniques, effective teaching and learning. If effective teaching is to take place, we must choose the right method. That means there are methods of teaching. There are different methods of teaching that exist, and we can talk about them. We are not only talking about them, we use them every day. Even right now, there is a method I'm using. You, my students in class, there is a method you use. So we're looking at the method of teaching. The pedagogy, the art and science of teaching requires us to have a method. There are different methods of teaching. Already 2010 defined the teaching method as a specific instructional process which differs from any other by diversities of specialized activities. Teaching method has been defined by Orali 2010 as a specific instructional process which differs from any other by diversities of specialized activities. In the lecture method, we have certain activities. Question and answer method, we have different activities. So one method differs from another. How do we choose a method to use? It depends on the class size. If you have a very big class, there is a method you are supposed to use. If you have a very small class, there is a method you're supposed to use. It depends on the content you're teaching. If you're teaching map reading, there is a method of teaching you're supposed to use. If you're teaching mathematics, there is a method you're supposed to use. So the choice of method will depend, first of all, on the size of the class, will depend on the content you're going to teach. Physics, you cannot use a lecture method when you should be demonstrating, when you should be carrying out an experimentation. This implies that each teaching method has its own peculiar characteristics and steps which differ from one teaching to another method. Lecture method is different, discussion method is different, observation is different. Different people opine that no education system can rise above the quality of its teacher. I don't know if you understand this. No education system can rise above the quality of its teacher. The quality of the teacher determines a lot in the education system. You can have a very good education system with a poor teacher, you will not achieve. Nor can a nation rise above the quality of higher education system. So these two things go hand in hand. The education system and the quality of teacher go hand in hand. It's your duty as a teacher to ensure that appropriate teaching method or combination of two or more methods is used in order to achieve the stated aims and objectives. So if you have a very good education system and you have a poor quality teacher who cannot choose the right method, it's wasted years. If you have a very good teacher but with a poor education system, it's also wasted years. So the two go hand in hand, but basically the teacher, the one who chooses the right method for teaching. There are different methods of teaching. You can look at the lecture or the chalk and talk method, which most non-professional teachers use. This method, we said, cannot be used in a primary school. At the university level, it's okay. There is discussion method, demonstration method. You're going to, because we said what determines the choice of method. We said the size of the class, the content you're teaching, and then the level of learners. Is it pedagogy or adragogy? If they are old people, you use another method. If they are young people, you use another method. So these methods, I'm going to rush through them, but you can know when to apply them. Discovery method, field trip method, the excursion. For physics, I don't know if you can use this one. For literature, I don't know. But this is usually for geography, map reading, or when you want to take students to create a lake here to see how it was formed and explain more about that. Then there is individualized instructional method. There is laboratory method in the labs where we test. We're looking through the methods. There is inductive and deductive method. Inductive and deductive method. This is an open education method. We can say that in the study of teaching methods, what is most important is the ability of the teacher to know the steps that are involved in a particular teaching method. If you don't know how to teach using the excursion method, and you choose to take students to Saka to see how that creator lake was formed, and you don't know the steps, that's a wasted time. If you don't know the steps of each method, you're wasting your time. That means you need to know the methods, the steps that will be required. We have the traditional methods of teaching and then the modern methods of teaching. One thing we can say is that the modern methods of teaching are more learner-centered. I don't know if you understand when I say learner-centered. It's a discussion, it's a facilitation, it's a sharing. Then the traditional ones were basically teacher-centered, the lecture method. So we're looking at the examples of the traditional methods of teaching. One, we have a lecture method, discussion, demonstration, trip study, where you take students and tell them this and that. Then we have new approaches to teaching, the modern methods of teaching, new approaches to teaching. Modern methods of teaching encompasses a variety of innovative approaches aimed at enhancing students' engagement, understanding, and retention. Approaches aimed at enhancing students' engagement. These are the modern methods. Like I told you in a summary that the modern methods are basically learner-centered. Then the traditional methods are basically teacher-centered. There is active learning in the modern method. Learners are supposed to participate. As in secondary school, a class cannot be quiet. The students will be discussing, the students will be talking. They are supposed to discuss and present. So if they are presenting or discussing, you can't expect them to be very quiet. There is this active participation. Then there is Moodle. This is a widely used open source learning management system that provides educators with a platform to create online courses. For example, right now, I'm going to put this content online and then you'll be able to access it. I'm being modern a little. Then there is video conferencing. Of course, this is high technology. We cannot afford it for now because we don't have the facilities. For myself, I cannot say I can use a video conferencing. Why? I'm supposed to understand the type of learners that I have. I have my students from Chenjoja district, I have from Buniguja district, I have from Fort Portal, I have from Kampala. Those in Kampala are able to access me if I'm to use the video conferencing. But what about my student down there in Charles? Is the internet there? Do they have the gadgets? But it's one of the methods of learning or teaching. We can use it when we have the facilities, if we have the internet. Then there is the podcast. This is kind of digital or video program that is typically available for streaming or downloading on the internet. We put it there, then you're able to download it and you learn a few things and there like this one. You can put it on the internet, then you download it at your own time and start listening. It is often produced for distance education, this kind of method, the podcast. It's a modern method. With the COVID that came in and affected us in the last 3 years with 2 lockdowns, we were able to use these methods to teach and learn. And for the University Mountains of the Moon University, these are methods that are approved. However, we teach with care because we know the type of students, the catchment where we get them, there is no internet. So we use them sparingly. But if we are to use them, we usually make it accessible. Not to have it live on the internet, but you can download it and listen later on. You can have your phone. You can save it on the computer and be able to read it later. This will take us to another level of instructional material. But for now, I'll stop here after looking at the teaching methods. The assignment I'll give my learners is that identify a teaching method, give the advantages and disadvantages. There are very many methods. One method, it has an advantage and a disadvantage. And what I can tell you is that when you're teaching, you can't use one method. You can't say, I will just use the lecture method. We find ourselves having more than 2 or 3. And when we're drawing our schemes of work, we usually put the methods. And when we have the methods, I don't expect you to have only one method, no. You use 3 or 4, even a variety, because we change here and there, we cannot say only this. It's a variety of methods. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to me. We meet again in another session. I'm still Kabazera Dina, Mountains of the Moon University, teaching techniques for teachers.